The Mexican Grand Prix is the second race in a doubleheader in the Americas. The 2025 Formula 1 season has really sprung to life again since Max Verstappen has the equipment again to fight for wins and even the title. He still has the McLaren duo in front of him in the standings, and I'm sure the fight on the Autodromo Hermanor rodrigues circuit will be with one of them and not so much the other. Let's do a preview and see how this race will most likely unfold. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit, located in Mexico City, is a 4.3 km circuit known for its location with a high altitude, unique layout and banging atmosphere. The Mexican fans are crazy, even without Checo Perez racing there this season. The surface of the track is smooth and the layout of the track has a bit of everything. Long straights, S's, a stadium segment with tight corners, and in the first sector some fast flowing corners as well. Because of the high altitude, the teams have a few challenges to overcome, as everything works a bit differently in Mexico City, the capital of Mexico. That's a handy name. Easy to remember. They should do that everywhere. Where's the next race? Brazil City? Okay, back to why stuff gets tricky racing up high. Well, for instance, the turbos have less oxygen to burn due to the high altitude. For instance, Ferrari has struggled with that in the past. Being in thinner air also messes with the drag and the downforce levels. It's always a bit of a puzzle to solve for the teams, and something that could make or break your race weekend. With the help of DRS, overtaking is possible, but seeing how these cars are now, at the end of their development, before a new set of regulations, it's not that easy. Weather can also play a part, as it can rain there, and the weather is unpredictable. It's not a desert, like so many other races on the calendar. So yeah, all the ingredients are there to have an amazing race where we will focus on the title fight, for the most part. So how did things go at the Mexican Grand Prix in the past? In 2023, Max Verstappen squeezed himself through the Ferrari duo of Leclerc and Sainz. Those were the days. Anyway, the Minister of Defense, Checo Perez, wasn't the Minister of Offense, because he attacked Leclerc and Verstappen in turn 1 and hit Leclerc. Race over. Another driver who struggled a lot in Mexico was Yuki Tsunoda, still driving for the sister team then. He kept making contact with other drivers, but not as badly as a year later, but we'll get to that soon. 2023 was the dominant year for Max, where he won everything. So he also won this time. McLaren didn't have the strong package yet, but Lando Norris still managed to impress with a bunch of nice overtakes, climbing from the back to P5. His rookie teammate, Oscar Piastri, let him by, just saying. That shit already started there. It was an interesting race with Max Verstappen as the winner. In 2024, things were completely different. Verstappen started behind Carlos Sainz, who would later win the race, but managed to get past the Spaniard in turn 1. Then, Yuki Tsunoda had a mighty crash after contact with Alex Albon. This place is definitely not for the funny Japanese fella. I hope he stays well clear of Verstappen. Well, he usually does anyway. Lando Norris was right behind them, chasing Verstappen. Last year, the McLaren car had an upgrade in Miami, which made it the quickest car. Max already had a big lead in the standings then, but he was hanging on to it for dear life. Therefore, when Lando overtook him in a very daring little move, Verstappen pushed him off track. Norris got through the grass and was ahead of Max. The crazy Dutchman knew that if Norris was to set after Sainz, he'd win the race. So he flung his car past Norris in the next turn, taking both drivers off track, and stayed ahead of Norris for 20 laps, slowing him down. Verstappen received 2 separate 10-second penalties for those moves. But Sainz won the race, and even with Verstappen finishing P6, he lost fewer points to Norris than if he had let him by. 200 IQ, even if the whole of Britain hated him for it. And the added penalty points made things difficult this season. He's on 9 points now. He will lose 2 after Mexico and another one after Brazil. In any case, seeing the history of the last 2 races, it's easy to conclude it'll be a fight between Max and Lando. Well, what about the leader in the standings? What about Oscar Piastri? For a long time this season, Oscar Piastri and his calm, collected style looked to be the guy to snatch the F1 title. Lando Norris kept bottling things, and even if Piastri wasn't always the faster of the two drivers in race trim, he scored the most points. Also helped by Norris' DNF in Canada, which was his own fault, and his DNF in Zandvoort, which wasn't his fault. But since his win in Zandvoort and his P3 in Monza, Oscar hasn't been on the podium anymore. He crashed in Baku, he got a little love tap in Singapore, and he finished P5 in the US. Any momentum he had before the summer break is well and truly gone. He's struggling on tracks with lower grip, and that makes qualifying tricky for him. A lot of messy laps. Therefore, seeing how he did in Mexico in 2023 and 2024, I doubt he'll shine in 2025. For my Aussie subscribers, I'm wrong all the time, so don't worry. I think the pressure from Norris, who's slowly finding his feet again, is mounting up. And with McLaren always leaning a bit towards the Norris side anyway, I think Norris will pass him in the standings sooner rather than later. The chance of Zak Brown saying, "Hey Lando, you need to be wingman to Piastri to beat Max," is zero. Most teams would have done it by now, but I feel, in true McLaren fashion, the constructors is more important than the driver's title. In any case, I don't have high hopes for Piastri. But let's see. Oscar has nothing to be embarrassed about. He's only in his third year in Formula 1, driving in a very awkward team where the hierarchy is unclear, while at the same time, the team keeps meddling in things. For a young driver, it would have been better if things had been decided up front. The team either backing him or Norris, rather than screwing with both of them. But enough has been said about that. Let's look at the upcoming race. The big battle will be between Max and Lando. Two experienced drivers with good cars underneath them and a title to fight for. Now, the big advantage McLaren had last year and at the start of this year is gone. Red Bull kept putting upgrades on that helped make things clear for next season as well. But McLaren has stopped developing, as far as I know. George Russell complained that thanks to the dirty air, overtaking has become so hard to do, the races will all be decided by qualifying. This is definitely a benefit for Verstappen, who has set the most poles this season. It's a bit of an underrated quality for Max Verstappen. If you ask people who's the fastest one over one lap, most people will say it's Leclerc. I think it stems from when Red Bull dominated and they set up their car more for races, whereas Ferrari heated up their tires quickly, making them fast in quali, for them to drop off in the race. I have good hope that Max will keep out qualifying the McLarens, and when he's in that position, he's very hard to beat, unless they have an outright faster car. The Red Bull team and the McLaren team have been playing a few games with each other as well. Red Bull received a fine after the US GP for entering a part of the track that wasn't allowed anymore. They wanted to remove a piece of tape that the Papaya team had placed there to help Norris find the ideal grid spot. Now it's McLaren's turn to screw with Red Bull. Haha, let's go! I think Verstappen is going to win in Mexico, a race he won 5 times before. Hopefully a Ferrari and a Mercedes can come sniffing around for a podium too. George Russell said he's feeling confident for the next 5 races, so let's see what he can do. The more cars between Verstappen in P1 and McLaren, the better. That way we can see the biggest overhaul in F1 ever. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.